Today's topic, I'm going to discuss, can you take money out of your 401k? So I'm going to go over the three qualifying events on if an individual can actually take money from their 401k account, if they want to do it in the form of withdrawals, how to create a proper withdrawal strategy, what is a 401k, so give you a simplistic version of what is a 401k, like how a 401k account grows. When you're doing what's the difference between a withdrawal versus a rollover strategy, and then also how to create a strategy for your specific situation, as opposed to just leaving things to chance. If you don't have a strategy, then there's really no sense of actually pulling monies out of there. There has to be an actual purpose for that. So whether that's taking systematic withdrawals or creating some sort of rollover strategy into an IRA and customizing out that IRA, there's going to be different criteria there. So throughout this video, if you have any questions, feel free to give our 1-800 number a call. It's 1-800-566-1002 and reference this video. So what is a 401k account? A 401k account is an employer-sponsored retirement plan. So what was happening when somebody started working for a private institution, they were given their employee benefits package, saying, okay, this is going to be your disability insurance, your life insurance, and we also have an account created that you could add monies to, known as a 401k retirement account. So the way and how that account grows is by the contributions an individual is making into the plan, and then also the matching money that that employer was giving towards that employee's account as well. So you have one side of the coin, which is known as your contribution side, when those are ultimately the controllables. The more money that you're placing into your account, the more money that's going into that account. The higher your match, the more money that's going into that account. So that's one side of, if you think of it conceptually like a bucket. Now the opposite side of the coin is that rate of return. So with a 401k, you have anywhere between about 10 to about 25, 30 different investment options that you could choose. So based on how you chose those different allocations and based on how well that those allocations or those investments performed would either grow your account or reduce the size of your account. So an individual could have been placing monies into a 401k account for 10, 20, 30 years. If let's say they're going and they're aggressively invested, meaning that they're correlating their growth to the stock market as an example, and the stock market went down, well, then there's going to be a reduction to that bucket. It didn't matter how many years that they've made contributions. The benefit of that rate of return side was it could be positive, but the downside to that rate of return side is that it could also be negative. So now we're fast forwarding to somebody wanting to take their money out of their 401k and seeing, is it actually possible, and why would somebody want to do that? So there's three main criteria or qualifying events that an individual could utilize to make sure that they could take their monies out of their 401k accounts. Now, also a little disclaimer, make sure to check with your employee benefits provider. Make sure to check with that 401k custodian and see if it is eligible, because you have some individuals that are eligible to take monies out when they hit a specific 59.5, and then other companies that say, no, you have to stay in here until you stop working. So I'm going to go over the three most basic qualifying criteria, but also make sure to check before you expect some sort of withdrawal strategy or rollover strategy. Also, at any point in time, you can give us a call. We can do the three-way phone call with you and that custodian to make sure whether or not you are eligible and ask the correct questions. So what are the three qualifying events? Well, the first situation is going to be an individual that hits age 59.5. So while they're working for their employer, and if they do not want to stop working for their employer, but they hit an eligible age of 59.5, typically those employers of those private institutions, they allow somebody to do something known as an in-service rollover, an in-service withdrawal. So that means that once they hit this specific age, they could call over to their employee benefits, they could call over to their 401k provider and say, okay, I have X amount of dollars that are sitting here. Am I eligible to roll over or take a distribution from this full dollar amount? Typically, it's wise to do a rollover, and reason being is when somebody rolls over their money, they have more customization options than by leaving their money into their 401k account. So the downside to a 401k is you're limited on your different investment options, and really you would leverage a 401k for that growth related strategy. When someone starts nearing retirement, maybe they want to have more of a conservative play or more conservative allocations. They want to leverage higher paying fixed accounts or fixed index accounts, something that reduces the amount of exposure. Or they want to hoard these dollars towards some sort of income strategy later on that they're not eligible to do through their 10 to 25, 10 to 30 different investment options through their 401k. So it gives them that flexibility, it gives them that advantage to say, okay, I have my monies, I just hit 59 and a half. What I'm going to do is take a portion or all my 401k, roll that over to an IRA or multiple IRAs that I could customize them to specific landing and actually create a retirement planning strategy with these dollars because I hit the eligibility age. There might also be some different nuances to this 59 and a half rule, where you might say, okay, you could only access, if somebody has a $500,000 account, you could only roll over up to $250,000, or you could only roll over what you've contributed into this plan, but it does not include any of the matching money. So you could see these little disclaimers. The most basic components are that they would allow you to do a full rollover of these dollars, and that full rollover does make mathematical sense, which I'm going to touch up on more of the strategies, like when you're creating a strategy or why would you want to create a strategy off of that portion of this video. But just be mindful, if you do hit or you're nearing 59 and a half, it does make sense to at least see if you are eligible to roll those monies over, especially if you're not looking to sever employment anytime soon within that company. Now, so that covers the first aspect of qualification period. The second aspect would be changes to your custodian. So what that would be is an example. Let's say that your 401k provider is with Fidelity, and you've had Fidelity for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And now all of a sudden Vanguard is a different custodian. They're going to be taking over your 401k account. And you may be eligible at that. There's going to be a specific grace period, maybe 30 days, 60 days, to say, okay, you have a new custodian that's taking it over. You're going to have new funds. You're eligible to now take your monies and roll it over. So maybe if you're in your 40s and this eligibility requirement comes in, or this eligibility comes in, you could take your monies and roll that out of your 401k into an IRA because you fell within some sort of grace period, or because of that change of the custodian. Sometimes they allow it, sometimes they don't. So it really just depends on a case-by-case basis. But if you are eligible, obviously you could add further juice, further growth into your investments or towards your accounts than just staying with your limited 10 to 25, 10 to 30 options. And what I mean by that is when you take your monies and you roll it over into an IRA, instead of only being eligible for those 10 to 30, 10 to 25 options, and let's say you had a growth mindset and you were trying to grow these monies, you have thousands of different investment options to choose from with an IRA that you're basically handcuffed to with your 401k account. So that would be the difference over there. And then qualification number 3 would be severing employment. So let's say if you stopped working for that company, you were fired, whatever that is, you are automatically eligible to take your monies and roll it out of that 401k provider. And this is a common mistake that individuals make, is they would go and leave their monies sitting with that old 401k provider. And there's no benefit there. The main reason why somebody would leverage a 401k account is for that matching money. When you're no longer working for that employer, you're no longer receiving a match in there. It's just basically a bucket that's sitting on the sidelines, and now you're subject to only those 10 to 25 different investment options to choose. So that's where whenever you have old 401k monies, it makes mathematical sense to take those monies, convert those or roll over those into IRA accounts, customized IRA accounts, to make sure that now it's serving a purpose and it's putting you in a better trajectory, a better strategy that could correlate to what your retirement planning goals are. So it's just giving you more eggs in your basket to choose. Why would you want to have limitations when you don't need that? So that would be severing employment. Whether you are fired, whether you decide to just work for a new employer, you would be eligible to take those old 401k monies and roll them over, or take withdrawals from those 401k accounts. Now, another aspect would be, which is very similar to severing employment, is if you hit your retirement age. So let's say if you figure I want to be age 65 when I retire, I hit 65, I retired. Well, what happened? We stopped working. So whether you severed employment on your own or retired, it's still you severing employment. So really that step number 3 is just saying that you're no longer working for that institution, so therefore you're eligible to take the monies out and roll it out of that 401k account, or take withdrawals from that 401k account. So what's the difference between a withdrawal versus a rollover? And you have to understand on how the taxation works regarding a 401k account, or I'm going to, for this video's purposes, is just a traditional 401k account. So a traditional 401k is a qualified pre-tax retirement account. What happens is when an individual makes contributions into that account, they're contributing, they're getting a tax deduction off of whatever those contributions are. So that's going into that ultimate bucket. They're getting the tax deduction now. So the monies are being filtered into this bucket. It's growing tax deferred with the power of compound interest, so that when it comes time when somebody hits their ideal retirement date and they want to start taking distributions from it, they're going to be fully taxed on these monies. So pre-tax qualified retirement account. When somebody takes a full withdrawal from their 401k account, and let's say they went from their 401k, which is a qualified account, and they took all those monies out and they dumped it into their checking savings account, which is a non-qualified account, what happens? Well, you would have to pay all the tax on those monies that you took that distribution from. So this is why there's a difference between a withdrawal, taking in the form of a withdrawal, versus creating some sort of strategy by doing a rollover. Because when you do a rollover, what you're doing is you're taking from a pre-tax qualified 401k account and you're leaving it, or you're placing it into a qualified pre-tax traditional IRA account. So it's going from qualified to qualified as opposed to qualified to non-qualified. So case in point, let's say that somebody had $500,000 that was sitting in their 401k account, and they decide, okay, great, I'm hitting age, I'm eligible to take this money out. I'm going to go and take 500 grand and dump it into my checking savings account. And that's a big no-no. Reason being is because you just took the qualified account and you put that into a non-qualified account, so you have to pay taxes on that. And then it's going to show as if you made an extra $500,000 of income that year, so then it could also jolt you into the higher tax bracket than the bracket that you were in before. So that's where you have a huge mess, so you could be paying a higher tax penalty for doing so, as opposed to somebody that has the mindset of, okay, I understand that I'm eligible to take monies out, but I don't necessarily want to take out withdrawals. What I want to do is just make sure that these monies are preserved and actually create strategies of these dollars. That's where we go from the qualified 401k, roll over into the qualified IRA. Qualified to qualified, to make sure it's no tax is being taken out. It's leaving it from $500,000 from the 401k to the new $500,000 IRA. And now you could create customization opportunities with that IRA that's going to correlate to a specific strategy towards your specific retirement planning goals. So what are some different strategies? What are some different goals? I hope that this section makes sense to understand the difference between a withdrawal versus a rollover. And be mindful that you could take withdrawals from the IRA after they're rolled over. So it's not like you have to either take a withdrawal from the 401k or bust, and by placing into the IRA, it's somehow going to hurt you. You still have that flexibility to do so. And typically it's preferred to do it that way because you could create better systematic withdrawal strategies or better income strategies while it's sitting in an IRA, and make sure that that is suitable for what you're trying to accomplish. So what is the basis of creating a proper strategy that's going to correlate to your goals? And it comes down to creating the vision. What you see, what's your retirement dream? What exactly do you want to make sure that when I stop working or I start reducing work at exactly this age, what is that age? And then what do you want to do? What are some of the hobbies? What are some of your dreams, your aspirations? Do you want to travel? Do you want to golf? Do you want to fish? Do you want to just be close to your kids, your grandkids? What exactly is that specific situation, that deathbed scenario that says, if I'm sitting in my deathbed and I'm looking up at my family and I want to look back at my life, this is what I wanted to do all the way up until retirement, or from retirement all the way up until this point. And that's how to basically create that vision. That's how to really put yourself in that mindset to say, okay, what are some different bucket list things that I want to do unequivocally, before I basically kick the bucket, as morbid as that might sound, and how could you make that into a reality? So based on whatever your list is, maybe that means that you want to travel more and you want to retire ideally at age 65, and you want to travel more from age 65 to 75. So then those are going to be more of your go-go years. You're going to be on the go. Then from 75 to 80, realistically, I'm not going to travel as much. So maybe from 75 to 80, those are going to be your slow-go years. So you're going to maybe travel once in a blue moon, nothing really too crazy. And then from those 80 and above, maybe that's going to be your no-go years, where you're just going to have to really focus in on healthcare and making sure doctor's appointments and all of that, because you've already experienced life between that 60 to 75, 75 to 80 marker, whatever that case might be. So getting a very clear vision is really going to be important regarding retirement planning, and then backing up into the math. So there's 3 things that every individual needs to figure out before they're retired, or if they're currently retired, how to stay retired forever. And that first thing is making sure that your income is going to be greater than or equal to what your expenses are in retirement. So based on what your expenses are currently, so let's say somebody's age 60 and they're eligible to do an in-service rollover, and they take their monies, they roll it over into an IRA, well, why would they want to do that? Like, what is kind of the benefit there? And maybe ideally this person wants to retire at age 65. So we understand that their point A in this example is they're currently age 60. Their point B is they want to retire at age 65. They have money sitting in their 401k account and they're eligible to roll over those dollars into an IRA or customized IRAs. At age 65 is their date that they want to stop working. So this is where, what are my income streams going to be? Right now, I'm receiving income from my occupation. Well, when I'm no longer working, I'm no longer receiving income from my occupation. So I need to make sure that my income sources are greater than or equal to my expenses. If your expenses are larger at age 65 than age 60, then obviously there has to be a plan or strategy in place. Or if they're smaller, what are your income sources versus what those expenses are? So typically income streams in retirement are going to be comprised of Social Security income, pension income, and then an individual's existing assets. I'm going to talk about the different accounts that an individual could create with customized IRAs known as safety income or growth related buckets, and it correlates to the three-thing scenario. But based on if somebody is not offered a pension plan, which unfortunately the majority of individuals are not offered a pension plan, that may rely solely on Social Security income and then their existing savings, their existing IRA assets or 401k assets to at least close up that gap. So let's say at this point B, at this individual's age 65, we understand that their expenses are going to be $60,000 per year, and they're receiving, between husband and wife, are receiving $40,000 of Social Security income. Well, now they have a gap there of $20,000. So how do you close up that gap, and how do you create an actual strategy? So this is creating a proper distribution income strategy using the smallest amount of dollars and only as much as necessary from their existing assets to close up that $20,000 gap in this example. And there's different income strategies that someone could utilize. So that's step number one. Whatever you use as the smallest dollars, only as much as necessary for step one. Now you can move on to step two, which comes down to your emergency needs, meaning your oh my gosh monies that you need to take from. So step two is making sure that you're leaving at least 3 to 12 months of whatever your expenses are into some sort of liquid account that you could pull from at the drop of a hat in case something happens, in case that oh my gosh moment does occur. Whatever is the smallest dollars and only as much as necessary to use for step two, now you have step three, which these are your fund monies. The ultimate goal is to try to leave as much monies left over in that step three bucket as possible. So these are your growth, your inflationary protection monies, because your step one is giving you that level income, is giving you that income that's going to be greater than or equal to your expenses. Those are going to be your minimum of income needs that you have to accomplish. Step two is your emergency need, and then step three are your fund monies. So that's where the three-thing scenario, from a simplistic standpoint, how to make sure that you're accomplishing those needs successfully. So we have a more detailed process known as the retirement diet plan, where we break it down into an acronym of DIET. You want to make sure your distribution plan is covered. You want to make sure your investment or growth plan is covered. If estate planning or leaving monies to beneficiaries and leaving an inheritance and a legacy, if that's important to you, make sure that you're padding up or you're maximizing out your opportunity on your estate planning side. And then T is tax planning, which encompasses everything in the diet process, DIET. So this is a trademark process that we have, no one else could utilize. But for the most part, it correlates to the three-thing scenario. It's basically like the three-thing scenario on steroids. And what I mean by that is making sure that you're utilizing those smallest dollars and only as much as necessary, so you have as much leftover monies as possible. So you're able to enjoy your retirement and have that confidence. Looking underneath the hood and saying, okay, what is this person's vision? What is this person's current situation? Can they accomplish what their vision is with their current situation? If not, then what are the slight tweaks that we have to make? And then make sure that we're tailoring towards the areas that are most important to you. If someone's not interested in estate planning, well, then that should not be part of their strategy. But what happens too often is individuals just have a portfolio and they just have this account that they're trying to grow, and they have an accumulation and growth strategy where they need to make sure that they're creating a distribution strategy, a preservation strategy, an emergency strategy, a growth strategy, all these different things, so that each thing, each strategy is acting like its own individual puzzle. And the ultimate, when you're putting together all those pieces of the puzzle, it creates that beautiful retirement picture. And that's what the difference is between the retirement diet plan versus just kind of going in, blindly and just having a question mark saying, oh, I hope everything just kind of works out. And that's hopium. And that's not actually creating a plan or not having a strategy. That's just having a portfolio. Now, I did mention that there's three main types of assets, or three main buckets that an individual could conceptually think about when they're creating their IRA distribution strategies or their IRA growth strategies or safety strategies. And what do I mean by that? So it comes down to safety, income, and growth. Some different safe-related accounts are going to be your money market accounts, really your bank-related products. So your money market accounts, your shorter-term bank CDs that you're just looking to get a fixed rate of return on the dollars, different things that are liquid, that maybe non-invested cash positions that are still sitting within your IRA account, your IRA chassis. So different things that you could access monies and really create some sort of emergency need. Like I mentioned before, this is where really 3 out of the 12 months of whatever your expenses are should be sitting, rule of thumb, into some sort of safety-related blanket or safety-related accounts. Your I stands for the income or your income-related strategies, which could be set up for stock dividends, so dividend-related stocks. You have your bonds, different things that are going to create some sort of fixed income. You have your annuities, which you have to be very careful with annuities. Annuities could be fantastic vehicles to leverage for lifetime income streams and making sure you're using the smallest dollars and only as much as necessary towards these different areas. But there's a lot of bad eggs out there. So out of, let's say you have 1,000 options with an individual situation, if they're above the age of 55, below the age of 74, out of those you might have 990 of them that are complete dog shit, excuse my language, that are more for the benefit of the company than rather for the individual, rather for the client. So what we do very well is we cherry pick what are the best areas for that income related strategy and make sure that everything could be tested. And we go through Monte Carlo simulations to test through these different areas so that we know, okay, if you have Social Security income, if you have pension income, if there's a gap there, how to make sure to close up that gap. So that's how you can utilize those income related accounts. Also REITs, real estate investment trusts, or just real estate assets, different things that could generate income as well. So that would be your income related bucket. Safety we already talked about, and then your growth is really everything else. So those would be more of your potentially speculative investments, or you could have your mutual funds, your ETFs, your growth related stocks, your cryptocurrencies, maybe your longer term bonds or longer term fixed index annuities, different things you're not looking to touch now, but you could have on a longer trajectory. Longer term fixed accounts, different things that we just kind of set the money is up where it's not going to hurt your overall retirement plan because your income streams and your safety streams, that's what's creating your baseline. So you want to create your baseline before you move on to your growth strategy. But really, case in point is you want to have as much money left over into this growth bucket as possible because those are going to be your fund monies. Those are going to say, okay, if they're going to ebb and flow with the market and it goes down, it's not going to hurt your overall plan, because we have those other areas, obviously covered. So safety, income, and growth, and there's different nuances and there's different specifics that you could leverage with each area of these three. So I hope that everything made sense. If you found value in this video and you would like help with your specific situation, feel free to give our 1-800 number a call. It's 1-800-566-1002. You would simply just call over, reference this video, taking money out of your 401k, and we would make sure that the correct advisor is set up for your preferred date and time. Also, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you could have access to the most updated videos. Thanks so much, guys.